Polycystic kidney disease, or PKD, is the leading cause of kidney failure in people under 50. That's according to the PKD Free Alliance. We're really going to dive deep into this topic today. I am joined by a local Grand Rapids family, Matt, Caitlin, and their daughter, Tori, who is... We're going to try and keep our voices not too crazy loud because she is clonked out right now. Guys, I so appreciate you being here, and you're here because you have this disease.
That's
you're
correct.
Thankfully not dealing with any symptoms at this point, but you guys are spreading awareness about it, and we're going to get more into why we have your little one here. But first, what I want to do is I spoke with a nephrologist today, a kidney doctor, Dr. Hito Khan, and he kind of talks about what this disease is, what folks need to know, why it's so genetically predisposed, and when other people can get it as well. Take a listen.
PKD it stands for polycystic kidney disease. It's actually one of the most common genetic disorders in the kidneys that leads to kidney failure. It occurs in about 1 to 400 to 1 to 1,000 live births. In America, they estimate there's around 600,000 individuals affected by polycystic kidney disease. And as the name implies, polycystic kidney disease it's a disease that presents with the kidneys actually having innumerable number of cysts that end up growing through the patient's life cycle, and eventually starts to affect the kidneys in a negative way.
Yeah.
It's one of the leading causes of kidney failure for patients under 50. And about 70% of the patients with polycystic kidney disease actually require dialysis or transplant by age 70. In fact, patients with polycystic kidney disease, or who are affected by polycystic kidney disease, because a lot of the patients actually start their treatments or management with a nephrologist at a much earlier time than other causes of kidney failure, such as kidney failure due to diabetes or high blood pressure, more patients with polycystic kidney disease are likely to get transplant or what we call a preemptive transplant prior to dialysis initiation. Because it is a genetic disorder, some people that are diagnosed with it, usually I would say about a third of the people that are diagnosed with it usually are diagnosed because of screening, because of family history, having a positive family history.
Yeah.
However, other 2/3 of the population that are diagnosed, they're diagnosed in setting of either incidental finding or they develop some sort of symptoms from it. So to go to the question, should everybody be on the lookout to see if they or their loved ones are affected by polycystic kidney disease? That is not the current guidelines. Usually, however, when there are some red flags that we notice along one's life, such as early development of high blood pressure, then the general population, more frequent kidney stones, having a pain or recurrent cyst infections, those sort of events, I think, are going to be ones that trigger further medical evaluation. And in those settings, this condition can be discovered.
Okay, so that's sort of the gist of what polycystic kidney disease is. So you suffer from the disease. Suffer is probably not the best word because you really don't have any symptoms so far in your journey. But let's rewind here for a second and talk to me a little bit about what this journey has been like. Many people know they have it because it's genetic. Many people also don't. I know your journey is somewhat in the middle of that.
Yeah, that's correct. So my grandmother passed away from complications related to PKD. So we knew, as far as we know, she was a spontaneous mutation, which does happen in a certain amount of cases. So she had passed that along. She had 5 children, 3 have it, 2 do not. One of those is my mother. So once we found out my mother had PKD, then we knew that I had a 50-50 chance. I sat on that for a while. I was young. I didn't really care. You know, I was healthy.
Totally.
Who cares? And then I started thinking about kids. Met Matt. You know, hey, like, he's pretty cool. You know, we should, you know, maybe we want kids someday. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it really sat heavy with me that I didn't want to unintentionally, well, I guess pretty intentionally, but pass that along with a 50-50 chance. That was just more of a risk than I was willing to take. So I ended up doing genetic testing. Even though I wasn't presenting with symptoms, I wanted to make absolute sure before we had a child. I did lose the genetic lottery, but that's okay because as the PKD Free Alliance does, there are ways to work work through that. So that's why we have her here today. So.
Yeah, and the PKD Free Alliance, that's sort of what connected me with you guys, is a group that really works to spread awareness and also talk about, genetic testing to make sure that it can not be passed along to a next generation, which is why we have little baby Tori here.
Yes.
And talk to me about, before we get into her involvement in all of this, working with the PKD Free Alliance, how has that been helpful to you guys?
Yeah, so they're fantastic. Their whole mission completely aligns with how we were feeling, that we just do not want to pass along this disease if possible. So I actually heard about them on Reddit. Somebody was just talking about this group that offered grants to support IVF with pre-implantation genetic testing. And that was something we had talked about doing. So I reached out to them. They do offer grants. We were very lucky. We didn't need a grant. We have insurance coverage, which is not that common. So we're very, very lucky. But I still reached out to them because I said, hey, we're kind of aligned on how we feel about this topic.
Sure.
They were very supportive just from the beginning, lots of emails back and forth and encouragement. When we had complications with IVF, they were there to support us, just like, you're doing a great job, you're this is amazing what you guys are doing. So just the support, that even though we didn't have the financial support from them, still just having them kind of cheering us on was a huge relief. So we kind of wanted to give back and help plug them a little bit.
And talk more about it, because I know that, Dr. Hahn, speaking with him this afternoon, many people know they have it because they know that mom or dad or whoever has it, but then there's a lot of people who don't know for whatever reason, or it's spontaneous, kind of like with your grandmother, which is a little bit less frequent but still happens, and then you just don't know what's happening. As far as being able to ensure that she does not have this, in her DNA, and knowing that this isn't something that will come up in her life, how I'm sure that's just like so reassuring for you guys.
It is. We've both said this, that we would not have had children if we didn't have this option. We're not willing to take that risk. So the fact that we have her here just in time for Father's Day.
And she's only 2 months old,
she's
by the
only
way.
2 months old,
Claps for that. She is incredible. You look amazing.
She's great. Thank you.
But only 2 months old, and I mean, an angel. As we're watching in this video, I was like, you don't have to bring her on, and here she is doing so wonderfully. But yeah, I mean, just that peace of mind and knowing that that's not going to be a worry for her, I'm sure is huge.
Yes, it is. It definitely it's a blessing to us, and we're so excited about it. So
very excited.
Yeah.
What, for people who are hearing about this for the first time, and I know I talked with Dr. Hahn, and he mentioned a little bit about some of the, if you don't know if you have this, this isn't something like a mammogram or a colonoscopy where everyone is screened for it. It's something that either you have, or you start to exhibit some of these symptoms like early onset high blood pressure, kidney stones, kidney infections. What would the word be to folks out there who maybe are experiencing those symptoms and are wondering if this is something they're dealing with?
Yeah, I mean, ultrasound. That would be the first step. You can go get an ultrasound. They'll look at your kidneys and see if you have cysts. That's kind of the first step for somebody who maybe has the disease that's progressed a little bit more, that they're having symptoms. I did get ultrasounds when I was younger, and it's kind of like borderline when you're younger because it gets worse and worse as you age. So, if you don't have some of those more aggressive mutations, you might not have all those cysts at a younger age.
Gotcha.
So they can say, oh, you might have it. They can't say definitively.
Kind of a waiting game.
Yeah, it's a waiting game. So that's where I led to genetic testing, but you don't always have to go to that. You can do an ultrasound as kind of a first step to see if you have the cysts in your kidneys.
And ultimately, your family experience, that unfortunately, this was what your grandmother dealt with, correct? Was ending up with kidney failure. But in your situation, you have exhibited nothing at this point. So it's really a case-by-case situation, I guess. Is that your experience?
Yeah, definitely. And within the same family, some people think, oh, if this family seems to have a more aggressive mutation, everyone's going to have kidney failure by 40. That's not the case. So my grandmother did dialysis for years. She passed away from an aneurysm, which is associated with PKD, but not directly from her kidney failure.
Gotcha.
My mother's doing quite well. Sorry, Mom, almost 70. Love you. And she's doing great. I mean, she really probably wouldn't even know she had it, except for the ultrasound showed cysts. And then her brother, on the other hand, is younger than her and is already almost in kidney failure. So it's just very different person by person, and you don't know what will happen. So.
And ultimately, there's no cure, but dialysis and kidney transplant can obviously be very helpful in this. So there's things that can be done if you do even end up exhibiting issues related to this, like unlike in your case. Things that can be done to, prolong your life. It's not, it's not an immediate situation where you have no options.
Correct. And there's tons of research going on. I mean, they're trying to find a cure every day.
Yeah, of course, that's
lots of
the hope,
research.
is a cure.
Yes, yes. So that is the hope. But in the meantime, since we don't have a cure, the best that we could do was just make sure we didn't pass it along in our family. So in our family line, it is it is erased. So we are
There
thrilled.
you go. Yeah, and I'm sure, the big part of the PKD Free Alliance, is just spreading that awareness out there that if you're someone or you know that this is in your family, there's a way to stop this in its tracks, and you guys are, living proof of that.
Yep.
which is
And it can
really
be
amazing.
expensive, but reach out to them because
Yes,
they do have finances.
they do
to help
grants
you
for
with it.
people, yes, which is of course so helpful.
Yes.
Anything I'm not asking, anything else that you guys, want folks to know? I know this was the first time I had heard of this, but now it's certainly on my radar, but anything I'm missing?
Gosh. You haven't said much. I'm just kidding. he's just here to hold the baby. He's
Yep.
doing
There
a
you
great
go.
job. No,
She's
just kidding.
the prized possession.
Yeah.
Gosh, she is so adorable.
No,
Well, I so appreciate you guys being here talking about this. I know this is some tricky topics to talk about, but I know getting the word out there, and even if one person out there, hey, I've had those symptoms, or hey, I think my mom mentioned that at one point, getting that awareness out there to see what can be done early and not pass it along to our little ones.
And it's not a death sentence. Get a
Yeah.
good nephrologist. That would be some advice I would give.
you
If they
go.
tell you you can't do anything, keep looking.
Yeah.
Find
Get a
the right
second
person.
opinion.
Find the right
Definitely.
person who can help you. So.
Okay. All right, guys, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it. We are going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.